Hello, and welcome to Byline of Time, where we present obscure historical happenings. Today we present the Pig War. Imagine this: two powerful nations, armed to the teeth, full of pride and tension, teetering on the edge of war. Cannons are loaded, troops stand ready, and what started it all? A pig. Yes, an actual pig. This is the story of the Pig War, a bizarre standoff in 1859 between the United States and Great Britain that almost turned the Pacific Northwest into a battlefield over one farmer's dead hog. Our story takes place in the San Juan Islands, a beautiful chain of forested islands between the U.S. state of Washington and Canada's Vancouver Island. In the mid-1800s, this region was still unsettled, and I don't mean by people. The maps themselves were unsettled. The Oregon Treaty of 1846 was supposed to define the border between the United States and British Canada, drawing the line along the 49th parallel. But when that line reached the sea, it ran into a problem: multiple waterways, the Haro Strait and the Rosario Strait, and nobody could quite agree which one the treaty meant. That small oversight left a gray zone, the San Juan Islands, claimed by both nations. On paper, it was a shared territory. In reality, it was a recipe for trouble. Both sides rushed in. The British, through the mighty Hudson's Bay Company, set up Bellevue Sheep Farm, run by Irish manager Charles Griffin. The Americans, mostly rough frontier farmers and trappers, arrived soon after. Each side planted flags, built cabins, and tried to outnumber the other. It was a peaceful tension. Two communities pretending not to notice they were living in two different countries. Until, of course, the pig. It was June 15th, 1859. An American farmer named Lyman Cutler stepped outside and saw a large black pig rooting through his potato patch, not for the first time. That pig belonged to none other than Charles Griffin of the Hudson's Bay Company. Griffin kept pigs, and they roamed freely. Cutler, fed up after repeated raids, shot the pig. Griffin was furious. He confronted Cutler, shouting, "You shot my pig." Cutler replied calmly, "It was eating my potatoes." Griffin demanded $100 in compensation, a fortune at the time. Cutler refused, saying the pig wasn't worth more than 10. Griffin threatened to have him arrested under British law. Cutler said he'd resist under American law. It was an absurd argument, but both men were technically right, because both empires claimed jurisdiction. And soon, both governments would find themselves dragged into the world's most ridiculous crisis. Word of the pig incident spread fast among American settlers. Rumors flew that British authorities were sending soldiers to arrest Cutler. Terrified, the settlers petitioned for protection. Enter Captain George Pickett, the same man who, just a few years later, would lead the doomed Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. Pickett, proud and fiery, saw this as his moment to shine. He marched his men onto San Juan Island, planted the American flag, and declared it U.S. soil. That gesture, bold, reckless, and theatrical, was enough to bring the British Navy steaming over the horizon. Within days, 3 British warships anchored off the island, bristling with cannons. They carried hundreds of Royal Marines under Captain Geoffrey Hornby. Soon, reinforcements poured in. 5 British warships, over 2,000 men, against fewer than 500 Americans. For a few tense weeks, the two great powers of the 19th century stared each other down across a narrow channel, waiting for the other to blink. It wasn't just about pride anymore. It was about national sovereignty. If a single shot was fired, it could mean war between the U.S. and Britain. Tensions remained electric, but something strange happened on the ground. Both sides realized how ridiculous the situation was. They were living within shouting distance of each other, building camps, setting up defenses, but nobody really wanted to fight. The American camp was perched on a bluff overlooking the harbor. The British set up on the opposite side. At night, the men could see each other's campfires, flickering across the bay. There were no battles, only boredom, whiskey, and the occasional prank. One American officer wrote that he traded cigars with a British Marine, and in return, the Brits sent over a bottle of rum. A makeshift peace, held together by alcohol and common sense. Meanwhile, back in Washington, D.C. and London, politicians scrambled to figure out how to avoid embarrassment. Neither wanted to explain to the world that they'd gone to war over livestock, and so for weeks the two sides stared each other down until a familiar name came to save the day. The U.S. sent veteran diplomat General Winfield Scott, an old hero of the Mexican-American War, to mediate the crisis. Scott, known for his cool head, met with British officials in the Pacific Northwest and quickly arranged a peaceful compromise. Each nation would maintain a small military camp on San Juan Island until the border could be formally decided. The British set up their camp on the north side, near what is now Garrison Bay. The Americans remained to the south, near what's now called American Camp, and incredibly, this joint occupation lasted for 12 years. Over time, it became less like a standoff and more like a neighborhood barbecue. Officers attended each other's dinners. They celebrated holidays together. There was even a baseball game or two between camps. The war turned into a friendly coexistence, a living symbol of peace through patience. Finally, in 1872, the question was handed to an unlikely referee, Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany. After studying maps, testimony, and decades of polite finger-pointing, he ruled in favor of the United States. The San Juan Islands officially became American territory, and the only casualty in the entire affair remained that single unlucky pig. Today, the pig war is remembered as one of the most peaceful wars in history. At San Juan Island National Historical Park, you can still visit both camps, the American and the British, preserved as monuments to calm heads and good humor. Plaques tell the story of the war that wasn't, and the soldiers who refused to fire. It's a reminder, and perhaps the best part? In 1873, a British officer returned to visit the American camp. He joked that if all wars were fought like the pig war, the world would be a better place. No bloodshed, no glory, just lessons learned and peace maintained. So the next time someone tells you that history is written in blood, remember the one time it wasn't. A war that began with a pig, ended with a handshake, and stands as one of the most human stories in the annals of history. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoy stories like this, subscribe for more strange tales from history that prove truth really can be stranger than fiction. If you have any suggestions for interesting historical stories, please let me know in the comments. Thanks.